Okay, the following will be a demonstration of what you will need to do to pass the pre-trip portion of your CDL exam. We're going to start at the top of the bus. We're going to check our clearance lights, our warning lights, our loading lights, turn signals and hazards, high and low beam headlamps. We want to make sure that they're proper color, they're not cracked, broken, or damaged, and there's no loose or missing parts. We want to make sure that the bus is not leaning to the left or to the right, and underneath the bus we want to make sure there's no fluid leaks of any kind, no grease, oil, or debris. We want to make sure there's no coolant, oil, or power steering fluid. We're going to check our crossbar. It's bolted securely, not cracked, damaged, or broken, no loose or missing parts. We're going to check our mirrors. They're not cracked, damaged, or broken, no loose or missing parts. All of them. And on this side as well. Alright, we're going to start with our alternator. Our alternator is belt driven. It's got no loose or missing parts. It's not cracked, damaged, or broken. It is belt driven, and the serpentine belt is right here. If I were to push on the belt, it will not deflect more than 3/4 of an inch. If we follow the hoses and lines down, we will find our water pump. It is also belt driven. It's not cracked, damaged, or broken. There's no loose or missing parts, and nothing is leaking. Okay. This is our windshield washer reservoir. The cap is in place, bolted securely, not cracked, broken, damaged, no loose or missing parts, and it's not leaking. And then we're going to take a look at our front and rear spring mounts. They are bolted securely with the bolt bushings. They're not cracked, broken, or damaged, no loose or missing parts. We have our torque leaf and our spring leaf. They're not shifted, cracked, or broken, no loose or missing parts. We have our U-bolts. They're also in place. They're bolted securely. No cracked, damaged, or broken parts. No loose or missing parts. This is our shock absorber. It's bolted securely, top and bottom. No loose or missing parts. It's not cracked, damaged, or broken, and it's not leaking. This is our ABS line and our brake line. They are tied down securely. They're not kinked or leaking. There's no loose or missing parts. It's not cracked, damaged, or broken. It's attached securely to our brake chamber, which is clamped securely. There's no dents or holes, and it's not leaking. We want to take a look at our push rod and slack adjuster. There's no loose or missing parts. It's not cracked, damaged, or broken. If I were to chock the wheels and release the brake, this would not move more than 1 inch. If we were to remove the dust cover, we would see that the brake linings are not worn dangerously thin. We'd also see that our brake drums have no grease, oil holes, dents, or debris inside of them. If we're checking the face of the front of our tire, we want to make sure that there's no less than 4/32 tread, evenly worn all the way across. The face of our tire has no abrasions, bulges, or cuts. We're going to the rim of our tire. There are no welds other than factory welds. There's no dents or dings in the rim itself. There is the valve stem, which is straight, it's centered, it has a metal cap, and if I were to check the tire pressure, I would use a rubber mallet or a tire pressure gauge. These are all of our lug nuts. They are all in place, they are all tight. If one was loose, we might see a rust trail indicating that that would be loose. This is our hub oil seal. All the bolts are in place and tight. It's operating at the proper pressure level as well. Okay. We also have our mud flap, which is bolted securely, not cracked, missing, broken, no loose or missing parts. On this side of the bus, we're going to check that all of our wires and lines are tied down. They're not cracked, damaged, or broken, no loose or missing parts. All of the hoses are in place. They also are tied down. They're not cracked, damaged, or broken, no loose or missing parts, and nothing is leaking. We're going to check our oil dipstick. We would remove it, wipe it off, reinsert it, and take it back out again, and it would read between add and fill. we are going to check out our power steering reservoir. We're going to do the same thing. Take the dipstick out, wipe it, and reinsert it, remove it again, and it will read between add and full as well. Our power steering reservoir, if you follow the hoses down, will lead to the power steering pump, which is gear driven, and all the hoses and connections are made. Nothing's kinked or leaking, no loose or missing parts. We also have our air compressor, which is also gear driven. It's bolted securely, no loose or missing parts, all the connections are made, and it is not leaking. We're going to take a look at our coolant reservoir. Coolant reservoir has adequate fluid inside, cap is in place, all the hoses are connected, nothing's kinked or leaking, there's no loose or missing parts, nothing's cracked, broken, or damaged. We're going to come on down to our gearbox. Our gearbox is bolted securely, it's not cracked, damaged, or broken, no loose or missing parts, and it is not leaking. We have our pitman arm and our drag link, and right down there going across is the tie rod. We want to make sure that there's no loose or missing parts, they're not cracked, damaged, or broken, and we also have our castle nut and cotter key that are connected properly as well. We would check the brakes, suspension, and wheels the same on this side as we did on the other. Coming down to the side of the bus, I'm going to check our doors. Glass is in place, and I'll show you later that it's functioning properly. It's not cracked, broken, or damaged, no loose or missing parts. We also have our handrails that are bolted securely, not cracked, damaged, or broken, no loose or missing parts. Our step tread is in place, it's not lifted to pose a tripping hazard. We have our step lights that are the proper color, not cracked, broken, or damaged, no loose or missing parts, and you'll see later that they are functioning properly. As we look down the side of our bus, we can see the clearance lights, turn signals and hazards, reflective tape, and reflectors. They're the proper color, they're not cracked, broken, or missing, no loose or missing parts. Proper color would be amber before the duals and red after. Also, all of the windows are in place, not broken as well. We're going to take a look underneath of the bus. Underneath the bus, we want to check our frame and cross members. We want to make sure that they are not cracked, broken, or damaged. There's no loose or missing parts. We're also going to check out our exhaust system. We want to make sure it's straight and that it has no soot pattern coming out of it. If you had a soot pattern, that would indicate a hole. You also want to make sure that if the bus was running, to listen for excessive noise. Right here we have our drive shaft. That's straight, it's centered. It's not hanging on the hangers, which the hangers are also in place. They're bolted securely. It's not cracked, broken, damaged, no loose or missing parts. And then we're going to move back further still. We want to check out our front and rear spring mounts in the back. It's bolted securely. There's no loose or missing parts. It's not cracked, damaged, or broken in front and back. We also want to make sure that our bolt bushings are in place. They're not cracked, damaged, or broken. No loose or missing parts inside of here. We're going to also check out our torque leaf and spring leaf. They are not shifted, cracked, or broken. No loose or missing parts. We also have the U-bolts that are in place. Not missing, no loose or missing parts. Not cracked, damaged, or broken. We're going to check out our shock absorber. It's bolted securely top and bottom, not cracked, damaged, or broken, no loose or missing parts, and it's not leaking. We want to take a look at our air brakes. The brake lines are tied down. They are not kinked or leaking. There's not no loose or missing parts, not cracked, damaged, or broken. They are attached to the brake chamber. Brake chamber has no dents or holes, it's not leaking, and it's clamped securely. We want to look over at our brake linings. They're not worn dangerously thin. And then our brake drums have no grease, oil, hole, dents, or debris. And there's no loose or missing parts, and nothing's cracked, damaged, or broken there as well. We are going to take a look at our push rod and slack adjuster. There's no loose or missing parts. It's not cracked, damaged, or broken. And if I were to chock the wheels and release the brakes, they would not move more than 1 inch. We're going to take a look at our bud wheel. Our bud wheel is evenly spaced but has no spacer, and there's nothing between my duals. As we look at the tires themselves, we want to make sure that the tire is worn evenly, no less than 2 30-seconds tread, evenly worn all the way across. We're going to look at the face of the tire and make sure there's no abrasions, bulges, or cuts. We're going to look at the rim of the tire, make sure it has no welds other than factory welds, and that it's not dented or there's no pits or damage to the rim itself. We're also going to take a look at all of our lug nuts. We want to make sure that they are all in place and that they are all tight. If one was loose, you would see a rust pattern around the lug itself. We're going to look at our axle seal. All of the bolts are in place and tight, and if there was, you would see a spray pattern if there was a leak. We're going to check out our valve stems. They are straight, they're centered, they have metal caps both inside and out, and if we were to check the tire pressure, we would use a rubber mallet or a tire pressure gauge. We're going to take a look at our rear mud flap splash guard. It's bolted securely, no rips or tears. We're also going to take a look at our airbags. Our airbags are mounted securely with top and bottom air mounts. They're bolted securely, no loose or missing parts, and they are not leaking. And we also want to take a look at our torsion bar, which appears to be functioning normally. It's not cracked, broken, or damaged, no loose or missing parts. We're going to move to our fuel tank. We're going to take a look at our fuel tank. We want to make sure that the tank and the cage around the tank and the cap itself, the cap is in place. The cage is bolted securely, not cracked, broken, or damaged, no loose or missing parts, and neither one are leaking. Coming around to the back of the bus, we're going to check our clearance lights, our warning lights, our loading lights, our backup lights, our brake lights, top and bottom, our turn signals and hazards, and our reflectors. We want to make sure that they are the proper color, they're not cracked, broken, or damaged, no loose or missing parts. We're going to look at our emergency door. As we open it, the lights and buzzer sound. Lights and buzzer sound. The door locks into place, and everything shuts off when it's closed. As we come around to this side of the bus, we would check this side of the bus just as we did the opposite side. In addition, we would also check our stop arm, which is bolted securely. Proper lenses are in place. They're not cracked, broken, or damaged. No loose or missing parts. Our battery box. This is a circuit breaker bus. There are no extra fuses. As we get on the bus, we're going to check our emergency equipment. Our first aid kit has 24 dry box bandages, proof of insurance, and 3 emergency contacts. This is our body fluid cleanup kit, which is fully stocked. We've got our 5-pound fire extinguisher, which is rated, dated, and charged. And over here we have our 3 reflective triangles and our 6 fusees or flares. We want to check out our windshield. We want to make sure that there's no cracks or pits. We want to make sure there's no decals or stickers. We're going to check also our mirrors to make sure that they are adjusted for me. Our student mirror, I can see all the way to the back and the top of the first seat. It is bolted securely. There's no loose or missing parts, as well as our visor is bolted securely. No loose or missing parts, not cracked, damaged, or broken. This time we're going to do a safe start. What a safe start is, we're going to put, needs to be in neutral and the parking brake set. The EV light went on and promptly went off, which is what it's supposed to do. We put our lights on to light up our gauges. We're going to check out our front and rear air tanks. We want to make sure they're sitting between 120 and 125, and at 125 the governor cutoff will cut out and it will make a noise. Our voltmeter will sit between 12 and 14. We have ample fuel. Our speedometer, our tachometer, our odometer. Our water temperature gauge will read at resting point about 190, and our oil gauge will read between 40 and 60. And that's the governor cutoff noise. We're going to check our inside indicators, our left turn signal, our right turn signal, hazard lights, high beam. Going to check our reverse sound, as well as checking each of our gears that it runs smoothly through each. Our horn. We're going to check our windshield wipers and wash fluid. High, low, and off. We're going to check all of our fans, heaters, and defrosters. Fans, high, low, and off. Driver and stairwell heaters. Working high, low, and off. Our defrosters working properly, high, low, and off. And our rear heater you can hear. We're going to check our strobe light, which I will show you is operating properly in a moment. And our front driver dome light and passenger dome lights are both working as well. At this time, we're going to do a series of brake tests. The first brake test that we're going to perform, we're going to put our bus into gear with the parking brake on. We're going to tug lightly on the accelerator to show that our parking brake is holding. Once done, we're going to push on our service brake and remove the parking brake while the gear is still in drive. We're going to drive forward approximately 5 miles an hour, and we're going to stop and make sure that the bus is not pulling to the left or to the right, and that we stop smoothly. Our next brake test, we are going to put the bus back into neutral and turn the bus off. We're going to put it back in accessory so all of our gauges light up and function. We want to make sure that our air pressure tanks are holding and they do not lose more than 2 psi in a minute. And at this time, you're going to ask the tester if they would like to time that, and they will. When they're done timing it, you'll move on to the next brake test, and that's going to be by applying heavy pressure on your service brake. After the initial drop, it will not drop more than 3 psi in a minute, and once again you will ask them if they would like to time that. When they are done timing it, you'll move on to the final brake test by pumping the brakes down. Before 60, your brake warning light will come on and an alarm will sound, as it just did. And between 20 and 40, the parking brake will set itself. And just keep pumping the brake, and as you can tell, The brake pulled and the parking brake light came on as well. We're going to restart the bus. And we're going to rebuild the tanks up with air. While that's building, I'm going to show you my inside indicator for the warning lights. I'm going to show you my emergency override, which brings out the stop gauge and the stop arm, and also the indicator on the inside as well. And we're going to do an inside cabin check. We want to make sure that our safety belt has no rips or tears, it latches properly, and latches as well. The driver's seat is bolted securely to the floor, and we also want to check all of our other seats to make sure that the frames are bolted securely to the floor and the cushions are bolted to the frames. We'll do that by tugging up on each seat as we go back down the aisle. We're going to check that the rear emergency door works as easily from the inside as it does the outside. The lights come on, the buzzer sounds, and on our way back we're going to check all of our seat backs to make sure that they are also secure as well. And while we move up this way, we're going to check our emergency hatches. We're going to release the hatch. We want to make sure that the lights come on, the buzzer sounds, and if we look outside we can see that the strobe light is functioning and is of the proper color, not cracked, damaged, or broken, no loose or missing parts. We're going to continue checking the seat backs, and we're going to stop at the window. We're going to check the function of our emergency window. The lights come on, the buzzer sounds, and goes off when it's latched again. I would check the other roof hatch the same way as I checked this one, and the other 3 windows as I checked this one here. Continue checking our seat backs. At this time, you're going to ask your tester to go outside of the bus and check all of your lights on the outside. So what you'll ask them to do is check your your clearance lights all the way around. In the front of the bus, we're going to check our warning lights, our loading lights, our turn signals and hazards, our high and low beam headlamps. On the side of the bus, we're going to check our stop arm, turn signals, and hazard lights. In the back of the bus, we're going to check our warning lights, loading lights, backup lights, brake lights, top and bottom, turn signals and hazards. And on the side, the left side of the bus, right side of the bus, we're going to check our hazards and turn signals, and as you're coming into the bus, our step light for the passengers. Once you let them off the bus, make sure you close your doors so all of your lights function properly. When your tester gets back on board, you have completed your pre-trip and you're ready to move on to maneuverability.